I get your points. I also get that this list is, I think, in my eyes, because it's like there's a lot of stuff that I don't agree with.
I think the list is perfect.
But even if I think the list is the list is not my point of view of the Bond films. It is our point of view of the Bond films as a whole.
Yes.
We've talked about the points. We've argued these things out. You seem to, like, this is where you and I are like the what's in the Dark Knight, the immovable object and the
unstoppable force.
When it comes to these things, I tend to think, I know you're like harpooning on just villain, Bond. Those are the things that a movie makes great. I'm like, there's more to it than just that element. And that's what I've always tried to argue with some of these other movies that I feel like ended up in the list. And I'm like, that man with the golden gun's not looking too pretty to me still. It's not that great of a movie. And you're like, but the villain's great. And
Scaramanga!
I'm sure there's an endless list of movies you can cite that have really cool ideas and a key like antagonist and a protagonist that really have a great thing, but everything else around it sucks.
Yeah, and that's like, and I'm just trying to reiterate this point of like, again, it's like you can write a great story, but if you tell it in a way, it's not a great story.
I don't know if this is told in a way though.
But here's my thing about it. Here's what I was gonna say. I don't think you're completely wrong, because I do think about it compared to the other films, and in my head I'm thinking it more in terms of between Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. Like that's how I'm thinking about it, right? But when we add these other films into the mix, I agree. I don't think it goes above Dr. No. A View to a Kill has some really fucking goofy moments that I really hate. For Your Eyes Only, I think has some really good stuff. Honor Majesty's Secret Service, I think is really underrated because you guys all suck. Thunderball, we've talked about for odds and ends. And this is kind of where I like land in my head a little bit with World Not Enough, just because there's some stuff in this script that I'm like, with the Denise Richards, what you doing here, girl? That stuff, like, to me, like, irks Thunderball stuff. But as we talked about it, like, it's not too far off because there's a lot of other things.
Thunderball's a transition movie between
Thunderball
good stuff and like, okay, this is on
but Thunderball's like heavy with that plot detail crap that, we're kind of striving, and obviously Octopussy also kind of lands into that realm of like, this plot's really fucking confusing. You sway me, though, on the plot not being as bad as those movies. So I get your pass on why it's better than Octopussy and Thunderball. I totally get that. You know how I feel about Honor Majesty's Secret Service. You know how I feel about Secret Service. And I feel that way because I do feel like the story, much like how you feel about this movie, the story's really good. I feel like Honor Majesty's Secret Service's story, as far as it being about Bond and his relationships and all that stuff and how it affects his job, questioning his job. I think that stuff's really good. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like somewhere in between where you're at, because I'm like, I get why Nans would be like, I'd rather watch Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies, I think, has a strong relationship, a strong correlation with Diamonds Are Forever. I think both those movies...
I get it. I totally get that.
But we put Tomorrow Never Dies up because regardless, it has clarity of plot and it is enjoyable. As stupid as it is, it's got a fun bad guy.
Yes.
And it's like, it's just Bond doing his Bond thing without caring about being smart.
Yeah.
This movie is smarter. As much as it could have been a lot smarter, it is smarter than Tomorrow Never Dies.
You have to kind of want to applaud that, and that's what makes this as hard for me, is I feel like where I would want to place it is more based off like, I'm like, I like this movie more than that movie. But the list says otherwise. So I have to go based off the list. That's where I'm at.
Before we've said, what would you rather put in? We've fallen back to that
before. We've fallen to that trap of like, which movie would you rather put in?
But I'm not tempted to do that this time. I'm tempted more so to reward The World Isn't Enough for not being a big, dumb action movie. Because, there are times where maybe you want to throw in Tomorrow Never Dies above Goldfinger because you really do want to watch the Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know. You have a party going on, and you're already way too drunk and your brain's not working. Whatever it may be.
So you just want to stare at Denise Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do.
Exactly.
I do. But I think here's the thing though. I think another part of it is, and I hate saying this because A View to a Kill is a movie that I think should have been way lower on the list. And but I will also say this. I can get through that movie fairly easily, and I do think that action-wise, it's like, okay, we got an old crotchety man fighting these villains.
He's an imposter.
That's not James Bond. That man's 63 years old. James Bond's a 35-year-old secret agent.
I think what it is
why is this 63-year-old banging Stacey Sutton and all these other 20-year-old chicks?
And hanging onto a fire truck ladder.
Yes. All right. Like, listen, A View to a Kill is probably just way more fun. I think that's the thing. I think that's where I
love A View to a Kill.
This is my problem with this list is that I feel like we are fighting between, and I think this goes all the way back to Goldfinger versus From Russia with Love. We're fighting between this good story thing, or at least what we think is good story, and what is good movie as far as having a great time at the theater. This goes beyond ranked. This is stuff that we're dealing with now as far as going to the movies. Do we want to go into a movie to enjoy ourselves, or do we want to go to a movie to think hard about why Michael G. Wilson has a hard-on for convoluted plots? That's the whole thing.
Michael G.
Michael G. Wiz. No, Mikey G. Wiz